My boyfriend, 40M, doesn't want to get married to me, 24F, anymore. Hello, I am a 24-year-old female and my boyfriend is a 40-year-old male. We have been together for 4 years. I understand the judgments some people may have, but I assure you that I am not a gold digger and my boyfriend is not a creep. We genuinely love each other and have a very good relationship overall. Arguments are rare between us, and we tend to agree on most matters. We make an effort to spend quality time together and do little things to demonstrate our care for one another. For instance, when I'm having a tough day, he will start playing music in the kitchen, and we dance together. He is incredibly sweet and caring, and truthfully, I do not wish to be with anyone else. When we first crossed paths, I was experiencing a very difficult period. I had been residing in a domestic violence shelter and later moved in with a mutual friend until I was able to stabilize my life. I initially started my career as a server, but I worked hard to rise up the ranks, and now I am a traveling periodontal assistant earning a good income. My boyfriend works as a pest control technician, so our incomes are fairly similar. He earns slightly more than I do, while I bring in around $2,600 each month. Therefore, before anyone makes assumptions about my character or my boyfriend's, let it be known that I pay bills, work 10 to 11 hours each day, and handle all the cooking and cleaning in our home. From the very start of our relationship, we made it clear that we would consider marriage in the future. I typically express my intention of wanting to marry when I begin dating someone, and I have also shared my desire to have one child. He expressed a wish to marry again eventually and to have another child. He has a 15-year-old son, but he prefers to adopt, which I am perfectly fine with, especially as I face fertility issues. He mentioned that he would like to adopt after his son turns 18 so as not to make his son feel as though he is being replaced, which I completely understand and agree with. In fact, I get along quite well with his son. I was initially worried he might not like me, but we enjoy playing video games together, watching YouTube, and I always include him when he wishes to join us, ensuring I don't act like a parental figure over him. My boyfriend's mother, who is also his ex-wife, is still a presence in their lives. However, she abandoned them when he was 8 years old for about a year and claimed she was cheating on my boyfriend with a friend who was staying with them due to his own lack of a place to live. They left for Nevada, which is quite a distance from where we reside. This all happened on Christmas Eve, and she took the money meant for Christmas gifts to finance their trip. Currently, they remain at home, defrauding the Veterans Administration and attempting to extort money from my boyfriend. About a year ago, she tried to sell her parental rights for $4,000, but refused to sign any legal documentation regarding it. Additionally, when she claimed they were taking their dog, which belonged to my boyfriend's son, to a shelter because she was a senior dog nearing the end of her life, we rescued her. We never confined her to a crate again, which had been her previous living situation with them, and she ended up living for another 3 years. The first thing they did after she was rescued was attempt to extort $400 from my boyfriend for a bed they had sent with her. This woman has borderline personality disorder and is extremely mentally unwell, as you might gather. However, I digress. We recently went on vacation for Valentine's Day to his father's cabin in the mountains, just the 3 of us. On our way there, we stopped in a large city to grab a meal and explore a few shops. We visited a small shop with a hippie vibe, and while I browsed the store, my boyfriend was looking at opal rings. He asked for my ring size, which surprised me because I had always expressed my preference for a white opal ring with a diamond cut, emphasizing that I thought it was much more beautiful as it showcased all the colors rather than just one spot where the light hits. I told him I didn't know my ring size, so when the salesperson inquired about my finger, I glanced back at my boyfriend who laughed, leading me to realize he wasn't planning on proposing. Afterward, I had my ring size measured and discovered a beautiful ring with a diamond cut that wasn't too costly. Once I made the purchase, we continued exploring other shops. He kept asking me if something was bothering me, and I tried to hide my disappointment. I didn't want to say anything in front of his son and felt guilty for feeling that way since he had just gifted me a lovely ring, so I brushed it off. It was not until we returned home from the trip that I took his son back to his mother's place. That evening, we had dinner with friends, and 3 days later, he again asked me what was wrong. I conveyed to him that I loved the ring and thought it was beautiful, and that I genuinely appreciated the gesture. However, I admitted I was a bit disappointed because, upon seeing him look at the exact type of ring I envisioned for an engagement, I had believed he might propose. At that moment, he chose to inform me that after 4 years together, and after numerous discussions about marriage, he questioned the necessity of marriage since it wouldn't change anything. He argued that we already lived together and behaved like a married couple, so what difference would it make? I reminded him that I had been upfront since the beginning about wanting to get married in the future. He explained that he didn't want to re-experience the difficulties he faced with his ex-wife. I acknowledged his feelings, but reiterated that I had mentioned several times my willingness to sign a prenuptial agreement that would be fair to both of us, stating we could maintain separate finances while having a joint account for bills and trips, or simply manage our finances separately however we preferred. He persisted in expressing his confusion about what would change, so I asked him why he married his ex-wife but is hesitant to marry me. He responded that their marriage was primarily for convenience. She was at an age where she could no longer stay on her parents' health insurance and did not want to work, making it financially beneficial for them to marry for insurance coverage. I must admit, I became upset and began to cry while questioning why he would choose to marry a woman who was reluctant to work, was often miserable, made him unhappy, neglected home responsibilities, lacked ambition, and treated him poorly. Yet he will not marry me despite my efforts to demonstrate my love, care, ambition, and commitment to him. I reminded him that I am not his ex-wife, and it is unjust for him to impose the mistakes of his past on me. He acknowledged my point, but maintained that he liked the status quo and was not interested in changing anything. I pressed him on what marriage would change, to which he simply stated that if it wouldn't alter our situation, why was I so eager to marry? At this, I became extremely frustrated again and walked away, recognizing we were stuck in a loop of conversation. Since then, we have revisited the subject, and he insists he does want to marry me, just not at this moment. However, I now feel like he may be stringing me along and is more concerned about keeping me than truly committing. I realize that some people may have their reservations about my relationship with an older man. That criticism is understood and valid. However, I genuinely love him, and he loves me. Whenever I travel out of town, he checks my oil and tires. He braved freezing rain at night to fix my radiator, ensuring I could make it to work the following day. There was a time when I was out with coworkers, and a guy made me feel very uncomfortable, prompting my boyfriend to come and intervene, scare the guy off, provide me food to help sober me up, and take me home. He has witnessed my worst moments and my best, loving me through it all. I have done everything within my power to show him how deeply in love I am with him. I leave his clothes folded, rub his knee and foot when his gout flares up. We drive around at night listening to his favorite 1980s music, and I stay up late just to spend a little more time with him, even if I have to wake up early for work. Every time I have to be out of town overnight, I call him and speak for hours because I miss him. The first time I had to leave, I literally cried for hours and teared up almost the entire journey. I do not wish to be with anyone else. However, the issue of marriage is a deal-breaker for me. Any advice would be highly appreciated. I apologize for the lengthy message, but I have not discussed this much, and it has been weighing heavily on my mind for the past week. I really need an external perspective. Edit. I would like to clarify that I understand the age gap might appear unusual, and I totally recognize that. Nevertheless, we truly do love each other. I have never experienced such care and encouragement from a partner. Our connection feels effortless. Additionally, I want to add that we did not begin dating immediately after I left the shelter. We maintained a strong friendship for about 4 months while I worked through my issues and took things slowly over the next few months. I did not move in until roughly a year into our relationship, which was a decision we both agreed upon. Finally, I want to address my attraction to older men. I understand that this may be strange for many, but I have a challenging relationship with my father due to past trauma. I am simply not very attracted to men my own age and do not resonate with the situationship culture. In my earlier experiences with men my age as a teenager, I encountered a lot of cheating and a lack of seriousness or affection just to focus on sex. My boyfriend, on the other hand, is nurturing and loving, and this is my first experience with a relationship like this. I should also mention that I was the one who initiated everything. It was my flirting that caught his attention, and only after months of me flirting did he ask me to be his girlfriend. He was divorced for 3 years before we began dating, and I had been in the shelter for a couple of months prior to moving in with him. We were close friends for about 4 months before becoming a couple. I have friends both my age and older. For instance, I have a work friend who is 58, and we still meet for breakfast every Saturday. I refer to her as my work mom, which reflects my diverse friendships.